Aloha and welcome to NalaniLIVE. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nalani Jenkins and I'm running for Honolulu City Council District 6. I'm hosting NalaniLIVE so you can get to know a little bit more about me, get to know what kind of a council member I would be representing District 6, and also so that we can discuss issues that are near and dear to the people who live in District 6. There's going to be issues, but there's also going to be a lot of discussion about the positive things that are going on in District 6. And we're going to highlight them here on NalaniLIVE. First of all, I'd like to welcome my guest host, Mr. Io Keehu. Aloha,
Thank you
Io.
so much for having me on. I'm so excited, so proud for you. And yeah, this is going to be super, super new, exciting, fun, very effective.
Yeah, thanks, Io. I'm a fan of your podcast, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much.
Glad to have you. Guess what? I have a little announcement.
What is it?
Okay, so last week, Thursday, as part of the campaign, I went to Honolulu and pulled papers. It was a really exciting experience for me. Oh, there's a picture of us at Honolulu last Thursday. My family, friends, and supporters came out. And as you can see there were a lot of us. There were there were hugs and family. It was great. And I just want to point out this cute little boy in the front row. You can't even see his little head. He's 2 years old. That's my grandson. His name is Laiku. And when he came up to hold the sign, we didn't realize until the picture was taken, the sign was upside down and he was hiding his head. But you can see his little feet and his shorts and his tennis shoes. Anyway, that's kind of indicative of the kind of day it was. It was fun, it was celebratory, and it was a milestone in the campaign.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it was great. And so, as we are launching NalaniLIVE, and this is our very first one of many to come.
Recording in progress.
I just want to make sure that the friends and people who are on Zoom watching tonight and the people who get to see this video podcast know a little bit about you. Now, I'm a fan of your podcast, HawaiiReal, and I know there are many other people that are watching that have been able to catch some of your episodes, but if you wouldn't mind, give us a little idea about you and about your podcast.
Oh, of course. First of all, thank you so much for having me on this show. It's been just going through the process of creating this whole environment, and it's been a learning process and a fun process nonetheless. But HawaiiReal is a one-on-one interview type podcast. It's on video and audio. We have it on YouTube and Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Amazon Music. It's even on Pandora, which I don't even know anybody that listens to Pandora anymore, but the podcast is on Pandora. And I started it back in 2019. It was a weekly episode where I'd have it started out just my friends and sometimes some of my coworkers. And the point of the podcast was to get these real conversations about not only what the person does, the guest, but also what makes them tick, what motivates them, who are their heroes, what are their struggles, those kinds of questions and topics and conversations. That's what I really wanted to bring to HawaiiReal. So over the course of 2 years, we've had weekly episodes, got over 100 episodes now, and yeah, it's for me, it's been a learning process. It's been a really great adventure. My network has expanded tremendously. I got to meet you, and it's just been super awesome. And people can go and find it. I have a website, HawaiiRealPodcast.com. And yeah, it's been super great. So again, thank you so much for having me on here, though.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here because that's exactly what we want to do on NalaniLIVE as well. You know, we want to be able to share real stories with people. They can get to know me. I can get to know them. Like, that's what Hawaii's all about, right? And it's going to make this journey and this campaign season, I think, really interesting for me and exciting at the same time. So glad to have you on board, Io.
Well, thank you so much. So one of the, let's talk about your background and where you're from, growing up through the years and getting into Naleo, and then finally coming up to why you want to run for District 6.
Okay. So we'll take a little trip down memory lane. How about that?
Sure.
I grew up on the North Shore of Oahu. My parents were Jack and Betty Jenkins. My dad was in the Navy, came over during the Korean War from North Carolina. He was a Tar Heel, met my mom, his Hawaiian bride, and they built a home out in Mokuleia. I have 2 older brothers, and I'm the youngest of the 3 kids. And my mom was a teacher in Haleiwa, so a lot of people remember Auntie Betty Jenkins. That's kind of what she went by. Taught for decades at Haleiwa Elementary, and then retired and became the founder of the Kupuna in the Classroom program for Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and did that for another 15 years before she retired. I learned a lot from my mom. You know, she was a community leader. She was president of the Hawaiian Civic Clubs and many other community groups. My mom sang. She taught me music when we'd have the civic clubs come over to the house, and we had Loyal Garner as our musical director, and she'd come in and I got to sit at her feet with the other uncles and learn how to play ukulele when I was like 4. You know, those are my childhood memories of growing up in Mokuleia. My dad owned an insurance business. He was a salesman. He was a funny guy. He looked a little bit like Santa Claus, gray hair, gray beard. I have such fond memories. My dad has passed now, and my mom is 93, and she lives with me now.
Wow.
Here in Honolulu. So growing up in Mokuleia, my parents' dream was for me to attend Kamehameha. And I tested for kindergarten and got in. And then the fun really begins, because you don't realize as a kid attending kindergarten for Kamehameha from Mokuleia, it means you have to get up at like 4:30 in the morning, you know, dark 30. And we would drive all the way into town. Now this is back in the day. You're going to know already how old I am, which I'm 55, so what the heck, I might as well say it. But driving from Mokuleia into town took a while.
What's a while?
About an hour and a half,
maybe,
on a good day. You know,
just to get to school.
Yeah, and traffic wasn't that bad back then, but there was no H2 yet. And so in order to get from Wahiawa, you didn't jump on the freeway. You had to go through, I don't know if you're familiar with Kipapa Gulch.
Yeah, Kamehameha Highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so through high school I lived in Nalani.
Oh, okay. So it's a pretty drive, but it takes a little longer.
It's a pretty long drive.
Yeah, it is. And so after doing that for a year in kindergarten and waking up early and getting home late, my parents said, you know, Nalani, it'd be a good idea. We're going to send you to live with your grandparents in Honolulu. And as a little kid, you know, you're not really sure, but let me tell you, the next 5 years that I lived with my grandparents from 1st grade to 6th grade were some of the most memorable years of my life. And you just, I think, develop a different relationship, you know, with your grandparents. And they're in that kinder, gentler age where they have more patience than they did with your parents.
Yeah.
Right? And they took me to hula lessons, and they picked me up from school. And my grandmother's name was Elizabeth Nalani Ellis. I was named after her. And she was a teacher as well, as just like my mom. She was a principal right here in District 6 at Kapalama Elementary. My grandfather was a machinist at Pearl Harbor. Really solid, you know, blue-collar working guy. He could make pretty much anything fabricated out of nothing. And in fact, he was at Pearl Harbor the day that the bombing
Oh, December
happened.
7th?
December 7th. And my
Wow.
grandmother could see him from her home in Leva. And she's told me many stories about that. So lived with them up until the 7th grade. And then Kamehameha has something called boarding. And it starts in the 7th grade and it goes through 12th grade, and it's usually for neighbor island kids. But we were able to convince them that Mokuleia was almost a neighbor island.
It is.
And so they allowed me to become a boarder.
Oh, cool.
And so in the fall of my 7th grade year, I moved from living with my grandparents, and became a boarder, and there were, I'm going to guess, maybe about 25 girls, 7th grade girls from all over the state, various neighbor islands, and myself. And we became like close friends. It was like having sisters and having a pajama party, every night. And gosh, it was wonderful.
Yeah, it must have been huge for you and expanding your friend network and getting really, really close to these girls.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely a change right around that age when you're entering intermediate school, and friends are so important to you. That's when I met Lehua from Naleo. So I actually knew Angie back in elementary school, and in the 1st grade, and she was playing ukulele under the tree, and I saw her at recess, and we became friends. But it was not until 7th grade that I met Lehua. She was from Hilo, so she was one of those neighbor island kids that came over. We were in the same dorm, and we would play piano together. We were taking lessons. Neither of us were very good. And the music we wanted to play was like Stevie Wonder. He was in the key of like E flat or some difficult key. And so we would play, one person would play one hand, the other person would play the other hand, and we would sit in the piano room for hours every day. And I guess that's a true metaphor. It's of what it's like to be in a group and play with someone, because it's like hand in hand. You're playing off of each other and harmonizing, but it's also a metaphor for friendship, and so those are great memories of us and the border girls. Later on in Kamehameha, and as you can tell, it was very big influence in my life. It's where I learned to play all the instruments that I know how to play today. But in high school, Angie and I and Lehua all found ourselves our junior year in something called Concert Glee. Have you ever heard of Concert Glee Club?
No, what is that?
It's like the choir at Kamehameha, and you had to audition to get in. And so right before the start of 11th grade, we found ourselves as part of this kind of elite group of singers and dancers. Now, my grandma took me to hula lessons for many years, but I am really not a good dancer. It's just not my thing, and I can admit that. But there was hula as part of Concert Glee. I was in it for the singing. So they asked us if anybody wanted to volunteer to be the combo, which is the accompaniment for the hula dancers. And I was like, me, because then I know I don't have to
dance.
Yeah, I don't have to dance. And so that started off as something that became who we were as Naleo. We auditioned for the combo. There were us 3 girls and then 4 other guys. And slowly, it seemed like that one guy would drop off or another one. And pretty soon, it was just the 3 of us. We didn't even have a name yet. Later on the next year, we were named Leo Pilimehana by our teacher there at Concert Glee. But we were just Lehua, Nalani, and Angie. And we became the Concert Glee combo.
Can you go into how your teacher named you guys that name?
It means the voices blending in warmth.
Oh, wow, nice.
So, the, Leo, voices, Pili, coming together, Mehana, in warmth. And so I think it was his way of describing what he heard when we sang, and I guess it's been our signature ever since. So we were outside of the Dean of Students' office one day, supposed to be rehearsing a song for the combo. It was Pua'ahihi, which Hawaiian music fans would know has a dozen verses. And so we're trying to memorize all the verses, and it's a little slow, so we were starting to drag and oh my gosh, we're never going to learn this whole song. and I told Lehua and Angie, I said, hey, I heard the song on the radio, and I started playing it on my guitar, and they picked it up. It was Stray Cat Strut by the Stray Cats, and we were singing it and harmonizing, and I think that was kind of the moment that Naleo was formed. The Dean of Students came walking out, and I thought, oh no, we're in trouble now, right? We're supposed to be doing our homework, which was learning Pua'ahihi. And she said, girls, I just got a phone call, and the Exchange Club is looking for a group to represent Kamehameha Schools in their Search for Talent contest.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So this is a little trivia because people know Naleo for brown bags, but they don't realize that Search for Talent was actually the first thing we entered. So we entered as Lehua, Nalani, and Angela, singing Stray Cat Strut with 3 Hawaiian instruments, very unusual. We got our zoot suits from San Francisco Rag Shop and debuted. The next year is when we started and formed Naleo, officially named by our teacher, and entered Brown Bags of Stardom with a little song that I wrote called Local Boys. And I don't know if you recall back in the day, but this was Brown Bags of Stardom 3.
Okay.
And it was 1984. Back then, Brown Bags of Stardom was statewide. Every school competed.
Right.
You were in the Waikiki Shell for the finals. The whole audience, it was full, so maybe 10,000 people in the audience, and televised statewide. So we were nervous.
Yeah, this was a huge thing.
Huge. And had never been on that kind of a stage before, at that level. And that year, there were many other talented people that competed. Kelly Boy de Lima, who became a lifelong friend. The guys that became Mana'o Company, Weldon Kekaoha, Kavehi Kekaoha, Danny Kennedy, John Baraquacho, they were in a group called Nakane Pono. And then even Tia Carrera was there that year. I think she represented Sacred Hearts and did a tap dance. and so here we are on this stage. They announced 3rd place. They announced 2nd place. We look over at Kelly Boy and he says, I think you guys won. And we're like, oh, no ways. I think you won. He was fantastic, by the way, as he still is. And so when they announced our names, we were hiding in the back row. Oh, yeah. Came out and grabbed our trophies and called our friends. I think there was a payphone in the back of, there were no cell phones back then.
Yeah, no.
Payphone in the back of the shell. And that was the beginning of Naleo.
Did you think it would get so far and take you so far in your life as far as a career?
Never.
Yeah.
Never. I think, when you're having so much fun, all we wanted to do was make music, We rode around in the car and sang to the radio. And when we heard our song on the radio, we're like, oh my gosh, that's us, So it was that kind of like naive and childlike, but a real innocent time for us, and it was great. So this is the part of the story that people don't know much about me, because they know the things that we've done as Naleo. They know about Brown Bags. I get that all the time. People say, I was there, I was watching you, I was in the audience, or I saw you on TV. But after Brown Bags, having the good parents that I had, that are always looking out for your best interest, they're like, you better go to college. Don't get it in your head that you're going to be just playing music, And so I had to cut a deal with my mom, and I had to say, Mom, we have a chance to make a record, and I'd really want to do that. And she said, I'll let you go if you promise me that you enroll at UH for your first year, and then for your second year, regardless of what happens with music, you go off to college. And so I made that promise, and I kept that promise. So my first year I was at UH Manoa, then I was at Leeward the second semester. Parking was easier, traffic and all that stuff. And then I went off to college on the mainland. And I got a degree from University of Denver, got a degree in business. I knew it's always what I wanted to do. Came back, and this is also a little known fact, I became a banker.
What?
So
that's a little different from singing.
A lot different,
Yeah.
right? And so I was a banker for Bank of Hawaii, started as a commercial credit analyst, went through credit school with them, management trainee, rotated at a bunch of the branches, and then became a branch manager. And I was the branch manager of Haleiwa and Wailua branches, right back where I grew up.
Wow. Full circle.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think this sort of speaks to where my heart is too, because I was given the option to stay and be a corporate banker, which would have been in downtown Honolulu, and I know I would have really enjoyed that too. But my heart was with the community, and I wanted to be able to work with the small business people and the families in the area that I grew up in. And so I did. I got to do that for a few years. And we decided to make a second album, which was our album Friends. And by the time the third album came along, we had other managers and producers, and I said, I think we've been around the block a little bit. We know how to do this. Why don't we start our own record label? And so Flying with Angels was our debut album under our new record label. So we all have careers. Angela was working for the Navy at Lualualei. Lehua was working at in Hilo. And we get a call one day, and I answer the phone at my desk and say hello, and the person says, "This is Mako Shibayama from Sony Music," and proceeds to tell me that she wants to sign Naleo to Sony record label.
No, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I said, "Lehua, stop calling me at work. I know you all
You
the
thought
time."
it was Lehua.
I thought it was Lehua. And I was and I was joking around, and the person was very quiet on the other end of the phone and said, "This is Mako Shibayama from Sony Music." And I was like, oh my gosh, it's not Lehua.
Oops. Sorry, Mako.
Yeah. A memory that has been ingrained in me forever. And that was the start of Leo Pilimehana, the recording artists. I shortly thereafter, we signed to Sony. I decided to start a second career. So I left banking after almost 9 years at Bank of Hawaii, and then I became a recording artist, and we traveled and we toured, and we've done that now for, 30 years? 35 years plus.
Do you think banking or working with Bank of Hawaii helped you in the business aspect of starting your own label?
Oh, absolutely. I learned, as a commercial loan officer, I learned how to analyze financial statements. I learned about cash flow, learned about profitability, credit worthiness, about forecasting, and so it was a tremendous training ground. And it helped me to then be the president of our record label,
right,
manage all of our contracts and our licensing, and learn about intellectual property. And so, what a fantastic career, I couldn't have asked for any better. And we did that for many, many years, still are performing as Naleo to this day. I get asked that a lot. Are you guys still performing? And I'm like, yeah. Less during COVID, almost nothing during COVID, but now that we are back to performing again, I'm so looking forward to doing that, and maybe even recording another CD in this decade. Who knows? After many years of doing business and the music business, I was interested in learning about other industries and how I could deepen my knowledge of communications and marketing and branding, because it was something I did within the record label. So I did a couple things. One, I went back for my master's, back to University of Denver, got a master's in organizational leadership, strategic innovation, and change. And I was also working at Communications Pacific, doing community engagement and marketing, and then a few years later started my own company. And so that's what has brought me here today. The company's called 721, and I co-founded it with Tracy Lawson, and we do marketing and communications and branding, and I've really found my niche and my passion.
How proud is your mom now?
Yeah.
Seeing from you starting a music group in high school and then coming full circle to where you are now.
Yeah. That's such a great question. She's so proud. And I know my dad is too. He was like my biggest cheerleader. People would say, your dad's always bragging about you. But I take care of my mom now. So she's just turned 94 and lives with me. And so she loves the music though. So whenever I get a chance, if I can pull out my guitar and sing for her, she really enjoys that. So I know she's proud of the things we've done. And I think I kept my promise, right? I got my degree, so then I was...
And more.
Yeah,
you went back for
more.
your master's. That's so exciting. That's so inspirational, when I hear stories like that. It moves me, and it's these... part of the reason that you've been so successful is that as you've talked here and told me this whole storyline, it's the common theme is you work hard. You work hard, you work hard, you work hard, you move to different things, different places, you adapt, you learn, and you work hard. And I think you can bring that into public service too.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know that I know how to do anything else. You know, it's kind of one gear for me. So if I'm committed, I'm committed, and I'm definitely committed to serving the people of District 6 and making a difference. And so I'm looking forward to taking all those things throughout my life and being able to apply them in a different way. I also want to mention, because I'd remiss if I didn't mention my kids. So you got to see them in the picture, but I have 2 sons and a daughter, just like I had 2 brothers and I was the youngest. And they're just the highlight of my life, and my 3 little grandkids. And so I've gotten to a point in time when there's so many things that I think are on my heart as to what's ahead for them and for the next generation.
What would be one of the life lessons you would like to impart on your children and your grandchildren, if you could just say one thing?
Ooh, deep question.
Yeah.
So, if I could say one thing, I'd say pursue your passion and give it all you got. You know, no regrets, right? I think if at the time that we could have made music our career, if I hadn't have gone for it, I probably would look back and say, oh, I think I could have done that, but you never know. So,
you never know.
Yeah. Like you're pursuing your passion with HawaiiReal.
I am, and it's super exciting to just, like you said, just follow your passions and doors open up for you, you know. It just, when you're doing what you love, it doesn't feel like work, you know, and that's passion.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
One of the questions that I also wanted to ask you is, I guess it's kind of weird, but what is the question that you get the most? That's my question.
Oh. The question I get the most, and this is like hands down, almost everybody that I tell, whether they are family, friends, or whether they are somebody I've just met, and I say I'm running for office, they'll say, why? Why are you running? And so, and I think that's a very fair question, right? And so, if you don't mind, Io, maybe we'll take this opportunity to share a package that our team put together for us. This is a package about why I'm running for Honolulu City Council. Aloha, I'm Nalani Jenkins. People ask me why I'm running for Honolulu City Council District 6. It's usually the first question I get. Here's why, and it stems from 3 main reasons. First, I want to serve. During my career with Naleo, which continues today, we've had the love and support of family, friends, and fans. People have told us that Naleo is like a soundtrack to their lives, from graduation, first kisses, marriage, births, and losing loved ones. You have our CDs and come to our concerts, and you've been as much a part of our lives as we've been a part of yours. And without you, we wouldn't have been able to pursue our passion for the past 4 decades. I am grateful for all that we've experienced, and it's time for me to give back. That's why I want to serve. Second, I believe that public service is a noble pursuit. Despite what we're hearing in the news these days, I consider it an honor to run and serve. It's critical, it's needed, and I take it seriously. I'm not a career politician looking for a job or a representative of special interests. Therefore, I will focus on the needs of people, families, and businesses of District 6 as I serve. Third and not least, people on Oahu need representation and help. I want to share a conversation I had with my daughter the other day. My daughter, Aulani, is 24 and a recent graduate of the University of Hawaii. I asked her what she sees as the main issues facing her and her peers. She said she's worried about how she will ever be able to afford a home of her own someday. She's an intelligent kid, a hard worker, and a perpetual optimist, but the reality of salary, taxes, and making ends meet is becoming evident to her. I remember what it was like in the 80s when I returned from college on the mainland. and began to think about owning a home and realized I wasn't even close. It was a massive hurdle of having a sizable down payment, building credit, and affording the mortgage. But as hard as it was then, it's even worse now. Are we building enough affordable homes? Are they truly affordable? And are we developing an economy that creates good-paying jobs? Are the jobs competitive and career advancing, or dead-end jobs in dead-end industries? Will our kids and grandkids be forced to start life somewhere else where they see opportunities? I certainly hope not. Aloha remains here in Hawaii, and I choose to embrace it and remember its importance in public service. I want to be part of the solution to making life on Oahu affordable and preserving generational families and our local lifestyle. These are the reasons I'm running for City Council District 6. If these issues are near to you, I welcome you to look at our campaign, and I humbly ask for your support and your vote. Mahalo nui. I'm Nalani Jenkins, running for Honolulu City Council District 6, and I approve this message.
That was super awesome. I was really impressed. But one of the things that touches home with me is the whole affordable housing thing and making Hawaii, especially Honolulu, affordable for just the average person again. You know, I have had a lot of friends leave and go to the mainland just because they work hard but they can't afford to live here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely an issue, and there's also, you know, a real need to recognize that we have such talent and skill and that family connection, you know, that generational connection, and how important that is, because we're not just losing people, we're losing a lot more than that, right? When people can't afford to live here and they have to move away. And like you, I've seen it as well with friends and family members. And so that's something that I'm sure we're going to be discussing in future NalaniLIVE video podcasts to come, because I think together we're going to need to really dig in and figure out, you know, what we can do as a community to uplift each other, to help people to be able to afford to stay here. Because most of the people, and I don't know if you saw this, but most of them really don't want to move.
Yeah, me included.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to leave this island.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I grew up here. So, yeah, I definitely would like to stay, and I would like my kids to grow up and find careers where they could stay here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Yeah. And I have 3 little grandchildren too. And so I'm always looking at that next generation, because it'll be no time at all when they'll be probably in Concert Glee Club, maybe entering Brown Bags of Stardom, and starting their life. And I want to make sure they have the same opportunities that I had.
So if you could wave your magic wand and solve one big issue today, what would that be here in Hawaii?
Well, gosh, that's a big question, Io.
It's hypothetical, just a magic wand.
A magic wand. You know, I think what's a big issue for me may not necessarily be a big issue for somebody else. I mean, we're hearing a lot of things as I'm going out there and meeting with people. We're hearing about crime. We're hearing about homelessness. We're hearing about affordability. We're hearing about, you know, the need for improvement in some of the basic city services, the concern about the high cost of living here and taxes. But I think that this is going to be an opportunity for me to really understand not just what's important to me, but what's important to everybody that I represent. And that's who I'm going to be as a city council member, is remembering that there are many different people in different phases of their life and in different economic situations. And I'm going to be representing all of them. So we're going to be talking about that in future episodes. And I welcome the opportunity to hear from the community on that, to hear from people that join us on this video podcast. We have some folks today on Zoom who are listening, but in the future we're going to be able to have dialogue with them and really be able to open up this conversation. And I'm hoping that's going to be the very beginning of being able to find solutions for the problems that we're discussing.
Yeah, I think platforms like this can open up the communication between politician, candidate, and the constituency, where they really need to find and hear what the problems are and what possible solutions are. I'm always the type of person where if you're going to point out a problem, that's fine. Come up with a solution or a suggestion. I know nobody has all the solutions, but at least a suggestion.
Mm-hmm. And I also think there's a lot of smart people out in our community, and I want to be able to listen to them because they're going to have some ideas too, And so I'm looking forward to that, Io.
No, I'm looking forward to it too. I'm looking forward to see what comes of not just doing Nalani Live and finding out, but how this how this goes forward into the future with communication and transparency between the public and the private sector, the government sector, and legislature, city council, Senate, all of that.
Yeah, very important stuff. So, while we're on that subject, one thing I'd like to do is to be able to show everyone who's watching the Nalani Live with us tonight, I'd like to be able to show you what the District 6 map looks like. Team, could we bring up that graphic? There we go. So this is a picture of District 6. It's the area in pink that you're seeing here. It's changed a little bit. There was redistricting this year because of the census. And so the boundaries have changed a little bit, and I think it's a good idea to go over it with people so that they know where the boundaries are, and if they're living in these areas, then they're the people that I would represent as their council member, and they're the people that I am asking to support my candidacy and vote for me. So if you look at this image, the top border is the most Mauka section of the district, and that's the Ko'olau Mountains. On the other side, you come down from those Ko'olau Mountains, and it rides along the edge of Fort Shafter. There's not a lot of homes there if you look at sort of how it shows on the map. But you come down to Middle Street, and right there is the bottom corner of District 6. You come towards the east, and that bottom boundary follows H1 until you get to Kapalama Canal. And that's that canal that's right next to Honolulu Community College, that area?
Yeah, HCC, it's right there.
Yeah, HCC. So there's a canal that comes down there, and that becomes the boundary that goes all the way from there down to the ocean. And so any area of the district east of there is completely Mauka to Makai, goes all the way up from that top ridge all the way down to the ocean. And if you follow that ocean boundary all the way to the east, District 6 ends at Ward Avenue. So it's Ward Avenue coming up from the very bottom. I guess that's Ala Moana Boulevard. And you're coming up through the Punch Bowl area and parts of Makiki, and it becomes Prospect Street. And then the boundary goes all the way up. So that's the edges of District 6. It's changed a little bit. There are 113,000 people that live in this district, and very diverse neighborhoods. So one of the things I also want to call out are the neighborhoods in District 6, because as I've been able to drive and drive through the district and look at the map, I have been really impressed with just the diversity in this district. And you'll see as I explain it. So Middle Street area, it's kind of commercial. I remember the old Love's Bakery.
Right.
It's kind of right in that area, just Mauka of Love's Bakery. And then that area is parts of Kalihi, Upper Kalihi. And then as you come east along H1, it's Kapalama, Kamehameha Heights, as well as Palama Settlement, right, is in that area. And you can go all the way up into Aleva Heights, and up to the top of the ridge. Very different neighborhoods already, what I'm talking about, and we've barely entered the district. You keep coming east, and now you're into Iwilei, HCC, like we talked about. There is Chinatown, downtown Honolulu, heading up Mauka from there, because, you know, Hawaiian thinking, we always think like kind of Mauka to Makai, right? That whole Ahupua thought process. Mauka from there is some really interesting and diverse residential areas. Liliha, Nu'uanu, going all the way up into the Pali area. And then a little further east, now we're looking at Pauoa, Pacific Heights, Punch Bowl area, and Papakolea. Come down from there, and you've also got the area that is the state capitol, the federal building, Honolulu Hale, and then the district goes all the way into Kaka'ako.
That is an amazingly diverse district. I don't know if there's a district that's more diverse than that, because you have luxury homes, luxury condominiums, and you have
Hawaiian homesteads.
Section 8 housing, Hawaiian homesteads, you know, public housing, KVH, KPT, or, yeah. You know, you have an older neighborhood, Kalihi Valley, parts of Moanalua, and no, not Moanalua, that's part. But yeah, Kalihi Valley, you have an older neighborhood, and then you have the newer neighborhoods in Kaka'ako, and you have industrial places, you have the docks, you have all the shopping centers and stuff downtown. Chinatown's huge. Yeah. You know.
So you see why when we're talking about problems, right? I think
super
that's
diverse.
Why this NalaniLIVE podcast is going to be so important, because to assume that anybody understands that the personal experience of people who live in this district and who maybe have lived here for generations. Some of them might be new. Some of them are single. Some of them are families. Some of them are generational, right? Some of them are business owners. It is already been such a dynamic process for me to get to know them, and their issues are something that I want to make sure that I'm listening to, and that I don't just assume that that I understand them. Because when you meet people, and this is a communications thing, when you meet people, if you're talking too much, then you're not listening, right? And so the objective of the upcoming podcast, as well as the door-to-door, as well as the coffee hours and the chili and rice, is for me to get to listen and also talk with them.
I think that's huge. In my experience, finding out and connecting with people, if you can listen to them and if they feel like they've been listened to, that's when you find real success and real ground roots connection with the person. That can, even if you don't agree with each other, as long as they felt like they've been listened to and their opinion has been heard and really digested in your brain, they're okay with that. They're happy with that. They can support that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, listening's huge.
Yeah, and that's the kind of council member that I hope to be. So thanks, Io. This time has just flown by, and we're getting close to wrapping up our first edition of NalaniLIVE. So I want to end with a few little points of information. So our next NalaniLIVE will be March 29th at 6 p.m. And 6 p.m. District 6, right? So you can remember the time. March 29th is a Tuesday. We will always be doing these on Tuesdays, and I hope that you will start to spread the news. I hope, Io, that you'll spread the news as well, and the folks that are watching us on Zoom, because each episode's going to be different. And in the coming episodes, we're going to start doing some interaction with the people that are calling in. We're going to start talking about issues that are near and dear to District 6, and so I'm anxious to...
That's going to be so cool.
Yeah, anxious to dig in on that. We're also going to be highlighting places in District 6. We're going to be having a little fun with this and being able to call out some favorites. I won't give too much away, but it'll be talking about, like, not just issues, not just things that are problems, but also, like, what do we love about this place that we live? Because if we can accentuate that and highlight that, therein lies some of the solutions to the problems. If we only focus on the negative, that will, I think, develop certain problem-solving skill sets. But when we start to look at both the issue and the positive, we're going to, I think, collaboratively between me and then the people that we get to speak to throughout these diverse communities, I think we're going to be able to really dig in and find some innovative ways and things that maybe nobody's ever approached it in that way before. So next episode of Nalani Live coming up March 29th, 6 p.m. Now, as well as that, we have some coffee hours coming up. Now, what coffee hours are, they are a smaller group, maybe 10 to 15 people. We've been doing them on Zoom lately. We are going to start going out and doing them in person, and I'm really looking forward to that. One of our first in-person ones is coming up soon. It's a way to now get face-to-face with people in the community and continue having these talk story sessions. So 42 coffee hours we'll be doing over the next several months. We're going to have 12 chili and rice dinners.
Who doesn't like chili?
Hey, I sure do. And we're going to have fun. Those are going to be a little larger events where we're going to have a larger group in a neighborhood, certain districts in District 6, certain neighborhoods. But we're going to have some time for conversation. We're going to have time to meet people. I'm sure there might be a little bit of music here and there, some good food, and some just community interaction. Always been something I've enjoyed, whether I was a banker, whether I was performing, or now as a city council member. I know we're going to be enjoying those, and there's going to be a dozen of those on the schedule. We're going to have some fundraisers, and the last thing that I wanted to mention was we're going to be going door to door. Now, this is a new thing for me, but I'm already excited. Like, I keep saying, when are we going to go? And I'm finding time on the calendar, and we are going to start very soon going door to door. It's a way of getting to know people, to meet them where they're at, right? And to be able to show the people of the district that I'm willing to work hard. I want to figure out who lives in this district, what their needs are, and I want to come to them and ask them for their vote and their support. So we're going to be doing that soon. And I mentioned 113,000 people live in this district. So I better be putting on my...
It's a lot of doors.
I know. Yeah, it's my what is that, 10,000 steps a day? I'm sure I'm going to exceed that on some of these days.
But you can do it. You can do it. You can definitely do it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And so with that, all of that activity, we are going to be working hard. We are going to be doing the things we need to do to reach out to people, and we are not coming off the street until Election Day. That's when the real work begins. So that's what we're all about, Io. I wanted to thank you for being the guest host of our very first video podcast, Nalani Live.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been such an experience getting to know you and getting to learn a lot about your back history and where you're from, what you're about, and what you're going to bring to the table. I love it.
Thanks, Io. Can I invite you back again?
Yeah, sure.
Sounds good. Thanks to the people who are watching our first Nalani Live. Please join us again. Thanks to the team who put this together. I humbly ask for your support for those of you who are watching this on Zoom or watching it on the website. And the website, you should know that one, vote4nalani.com. So it's vote4nalani.com. Check it out. There's going to be lots more information and dates on the things that we talked about, like the coffee hours and the chili and rice. So with that, I'd like to say mahalo to everyone. We'll catch you again soon, March 29th, 6 p.m. Aloha and a hui ho.